how could it possibly be good for, especially for a developing mind, to hear them say something that's fucking crazy and the first, I guess, warning sign of a potential mental illness, and encourage them in that behavior? We don't do that in any other way, right? Except for with fatness, actually. It's those two things. It's gender and it's fatness, which are, one is a mental illness and the other one is like the most obscene version of a lack of discipline. You know what I mean? And they both have extreme consequences.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We've got a special guest today, Derek Wolfe. I'm told you played in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the rumor.
Yeah. Well, I'll let me Google it right quick and see if that's right. Let's start at the beginning of your life. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Beaver, Pennsylvania, same hospital as Joe Namath.
Oh, wow. And did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
No, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. So spent some time in Youngstown, spent some time south of Youngstown. Went to high school like probably 45 minutes south of Youngstown, just grew up along the Ohio River right there.
Youngstown used to be kind of a way station for organized crime.
Yeah, little Chicago.
Yeah. Is it still like that now?
Yeah, it's pretty scummy still. A lot of Italians up there.
So you're just saying Italians are all scummy. Got it.
No,
it's fine. It's fine. Just say whatever's on your mind. And you, when did you start playing football as a kid? Was it like Pop Warner?
Yeah, when I was 6. I started playing full contact when I was 6.
That seems kind of young.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. Especially because, well, the coaching that there is now, they coach a little different now. They teach you, like, you get better coaches now. Like the first time I stepped foot on the field, they were like, hey, put the crown of your helmet through his chin. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, that's how I learned how to tackle people, and then finally when I got to, it was really not until I got to the NFL that leading with your head stuff that's when they started to pay attention to it. And I didn't go like trying to hit people with my head, but a lot of shoulders and stuff. But you were worried about protecting your head. And now they are teaching those kids how to tackle with their head up. But the problem is that football it's a violent sport, man. So like, I suggest if your kid isn't like a big offense or defensive lineman, keep him in flag football till he's in 8th grade.
You don't think there's some? I don't know anything about this. So is there not? Why the defensive lineman? Like why? No. Why would they be?
Oh, because they're big kids. They're not out there catching passes and shit. Like, who wants to go block in flag football?
Yeah, with no pads on.
Yeah, like it's. But if you're like a bigger kid and you're on the offensive defensive line, you're less likely to get bad concussions. Like high impact concussions. Where that's where the concussions I think happen a lot in little league football. It's like, because some kids are pretty good athletes and a lot of kids aren't great athletes and their athleticism hasn't really kicked in yet. So they don't understand angles and all that stuff. And they're just out there running around and end up hitting each other in the head. They don't have any body control yet. So, and that stuff kind of happens in like the middle of the field, secondary issues. Like it happens more between like receivers and DBs, I think. So I think it's good for them to learn how to do it, playing 7-on-7 in flag football. I think that's a smarter way to do it. And then maybe wait till they're like 10 or 11 before you put them into full contact football. And then the other thing is you got to make sure they even want to do that, because that shit's not for everybody. Like not everybody wants to be a quarterback when they start playing football. Everybody's like, oh, I want to be a quarterback. And then unfortunately, not everybody's made to be a quarterback. So you got to put your hand in the dirt sometimes. You got to go out there and you got to play defense a lot of times, and that's not flashy. So it's not for everybody. So, when it comes to like little league football, you have to make sure that your kid wants to do it. Like you can't force anybody to do this shit, because if you force, it's too hard to have to force somebody to do it. That's why I relate it to like tier 1 operators, because nobody is forced to be a tier 1 operator. Like it's like, hey, you have to do this. Like, no, it's or be a SEAL, anything, any kind of special forces. You know, like nobody's forcing them to do that. They have to love doing it because this shit's hard, and it's physically demanding, and it takes sacrifice and time off your life. You know, it's just something that, you know, I love doing it. Like the second I stepped foot on a field and I got to feel like hit somebody and get hit, and like I enjoyed that, like, because I'm a boy and I like to play rough. So it was like the perfect outlet for me. But there's a lot of kids that aren't like they're not built for it, you know, and they should just stick to baseball, soccer, and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any quit in you, it's going to come out when you get popped.
Oh yeah,
I think
fatigue. And fatigue.
Yeah.
Once you get tired, fatigue makes cowards of us all, right? You know, that's something that once you get tired on the foot, everybody's great whenever you're feeling 100%. You go out there and you fucking you got your fucking ankle spatted and you got fucking gloves on and shit. But whenever somebody comes and hits you and then like the third quarter gets in and you're tired of shit, you know, what happens then? You know, and that's why I love football, because it does build men. But it also, you know, I watched a lot of kids fucking quit because they couldn't take it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had most patriarchal cultures throughout human history, which is to say most cultures, right? Because almost all cultures have been patriarchal, not by choice, by the way, or not by force. Rather, I would say it's by choice. Like women historically have chosen to subjugate themselves to men for protection. That's a fact. Most cultures, though, have had some rite of passage or another for young boys to become young men, to become fully part of the male tribe, right? Whatever it happens to be. You know, the Greeks had their whole thing of it gets dramatized a lot. It wasn't really like they basically they killed a wounded animal that was chained to a fucking tree, right? Out in the woods somewhere. It's not like it looks in 300 where a 12-year-old goes out with a spear and kills a fucking dire wolf by himself. That's not real, but there's other like Samoan cultures. Some of them, I think the one on Saipan, they would chuck like a 6, 7, 8-year-old into the water and tell him he has to swim around this reef or whatever, and that's like his first initiate. But the point isn't the specifics; it's that we've always had this kind of stuff, and I think that's what the Boy Scouts was to some degree for a while. But now we just don't have anything at all, right? And they don't have. Yeah, Dan, that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how I learned how to swim. My stepdad grabbed me by the back of my shirt and just fucking threw me in the deep end. It's like, you're either going to figure it out or he's going to have to come in there and get me. You know, it's not like he threw me in there and just walked away. Like, he was an asshole, but he wasn't like a fucking murderer. You know, he threw me in there and I figured out how to get back to the side of the pool. And then I wasn't scared of the water anymore. And when I was like probably 4 or 5 years old, you know, and then it was the same thing with football. Like, I stepped on the field and at first you're like, I don't know what to do here. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then all it takes is somebody to say, hey, be the hammer, not the nail. And that makes sense to me. So I'm like, okay, so be the one that hits somebody. Don't be the one to get hit. So I took that on, and it was, you know, I think the Comanches, they used to put a 5-year-old on a fucking horse, bareback. Like, that's how they fucking righted them into it. They put them on a horse bareback at 5 years old. You know, it's throughout history. I love history, Dan. So like, I love talking about that shit. Yeah. You know, the Vikings used to have to do basically once they are coming up to age as a teenager, they 14, 15, somewhere between there, they have to go out in the wild and spend time alone in the wild. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Vikings, but Bjorn Ironside goes out and kills a fucking grizzly bear. But, you know, it's kind of like that. You go out and you kind of find yourself and see what you're made of. I would believe it more from the Danish than I would from the Greeks, to be honest. Not that the Athenians had a pretty good military and the Spartans had a pretty good military, but it's churched up a lot in some of these new fucking films and stuff we have. The Vikings were legit lunatics. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if there's a modern comparison to it. It was an honor-based culture to some degree, although they were ravagers as well. But internally, it was honor-based. If you offended somebody, you had to fucking fight. That's just the way it was. And if your kid died during the rite of passage, then that's just how it goes, right? Like, it's more important to do the rite of passage than it is to survive even. And I don't see, like, most cultures don't have any tolerance for that bullshit.
Well, we don't have any tolerance for like the strongest rising to the top.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
look at the last 4 years, the things that's happened in our government. That's just what we've done to our country with like DEI, making people feel like they are victims all the time. Everybody's a fucking victim, and it's like, just the luxuries that we have are just like from the last 100 years, before that, people were just surviving, like it was all survival. And the last 100 years, we've like, our technology has just boosted us into this fucking stratosphere of comfort. And that's the problem. People have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and young men need to go through adversity. I'm a father to daughters, and I try to do everything I can to like prevent them from having those kind of adversities. But I also don't just do everything for them. Like they have to suffer a little bit. Like they have to go through that, like that suffrage. Little boys need to go through physical suffrage. Like they need to physically go through some shit to become a man. I feel like that's part of becoming a man, is going through some hard shit. And that's why football is such a good sport, because going through, and they did away with all the miserable shit, like the 2-a-days in high school, and that stuff used to suck, man. Like that's what builds you into the man you are, is going through those, and you suffer with your brothers, and then after that you have the military, like, guys going to that was the other thing in history. All of these other civilizations, you had to serve. Like it was part of your, unless you were like super privileged, even they did. Even the king's kids, had to serve. So it's emperors and kings, their kids served, and fought. And,
it used to be a requirement if you wanted to serve in any kind of public office that you had to have military service as a prerequisite, right? In a lot of cultures throughout history. Now, it wasn't even a law. It was just like understood amongst everybody that this is how it's done. I think, we've got to do some kind of work to rebuild some of this stuff inside of our own culture if we want to continue. Like, I guess since you're a football player, we can relate it to the draft combine. There's a combination of watching somebody actually do a thing and then watch them perform athletically. We would call it a selection process, right? Like, what's the process by which we're doing this actively? But I think passive selection processes are way more important than active selection. And what I mean by that is we have to tailor the upbringing of children, and then the even up to post-secondary education, which is to say advanced degrees, in a way that's producing the desired result, right? Like we're looking to produce competent people who are leaders, who are confident enough and ethical enough to make good decisions. And then, as you go up in education, we're talking about people who are experts, but also have a good baseline scientific mind, which is to say they don't have pride of authorship. Just because it's their idea, they don't hold on to it even when it's proven wrong, shit like that, right? Like all these passive processes they're consequence-based, right? All throughout your adolescence and your early adult life, to make sure that we're producing the best kind of people. We've removed most of this stuff from society, and now we get a substandard product, and everybody sits around scratching their head like, why is that? What do you mean, why? Of course that's the way it worked out. Like, if you just let everybody in the door, then you're going to get a bunch of fucking retards, right?
Yeah. I mean, imagine if the NFL just was like, you know what? Everybody gets a tryout.
Yeah, well, the Eagles did it once.
Imagine what kind of fucking shit show that would be.
Invincible.
In Colorado would be out there trying out for the fucking team. Like it's incredible. And I think that when you talk about accountability is nothing without consequence. Accountability means nothing if there is no consequence to what you've done. Like if I just say I'm sorry and then I'm forgiven, or if I just that's the problem. Like we have one side of our government, the left, who they don't take any accountability for anything. I mean, look at the Lincoln Riley shit that's going on. None of them have taken responsibility for taxpayer dollars paying for a fucking full blown fucking psychopath to be over here.
Well, you know,
hunting.
So the FBI director and Mayorkas refused to testify in front of Congress in a public hearing today. They just refused in front of the Senate. It's like, send the sergeant at arms to arrest these people and bring them in and make them testify. They don't have the right to fucking ignore a congressional subpoena. They're appointed individuals. Those are two Senate appointed individuals. They are responsible to the Senate. But we just have a bunch of weak bitches that serve in politics. I don't think, and this might sound silly to some people, but I don't think somebody should be able to serve in Congress unless they can bench and squat their body weight. You have to be able to do both of those things. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You should be able to do those two things. If you can't, how are you lifting yourself up off the ground if you can't fucking bench your body weight? I don't want undisciplined fat dummies representing me, right? Because that is a sign of, one, lack of discipline, but also, more importantly, weakness. And that is not the kind of person we should be promoting in any regard. I mean, some of these rites of passage are crazy, like the Sater Mawe bullet ant glove. There was this native Brazilian tribe in the Amazon, and they would weave bullet ants into this like mesh glove and put it over your hand like fucking Dune. This is where they got the idea from Dune, the test where it's like unspeakable pain with your hand in it. And if you made a sound, and you have to put your hand in there for 10 minutes, and if you made any sound at all other than just breathing, you fail and you're not a man, right? Like that might be a little bit extreme, frankly, right? But there's certainly some stuff, again, like we have to reach back.
Look up the blood eagle.
Oh, I know blood eagle, yeah, but that was more of a punishment, right? Like if you're gonna,
they truly believe that they wouldn't go to Valhalla if they made a sound.
Yeah,
like somebody ripping your fucking lungs out.
Yeah, it's not great. I think we should bring that back, by the way, but that's not the point. It's like you have to. These lessons have to be learned young, or it becomes like every year that you wait to teach somebody resilience, the harder it becomes. That's just the way it goes. It's just like learning a foreign language, man. It's like, and I'll go through some of the reasons why. First is then being naive as a child is a useful template to map good stuff onto, right? Like you teach somebody before they learn how fucked up the world can be, because some people's response to how brutal the world can be is insecurity and selfishness, right? But that's not how a man thinks, right? Like this resource scarcity idea, that will turn you into a conniving little bitch. So you teach the kid in a low consequence or even a consequence-free environment that our job is to protect other people and take care of them, not to look after ourselves, right? Then they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. And then on the physiological side, before the kid understands how all this works, they will see the kinesthetic version of it working. And that is the anticipation of relief from pain makes your body produce natural analgesics, pain relievers, right? Like if you're cold and you think about fire, if you think about water, it makes you have to piss. Like all these are physiological actions that have real responses to them in your body. And you could teach somebody at a young age how to control that shit. Like I remember when I was in basic training, it's like fucking 20 degrees outside, and we're sweating our asses off from PT. And then once your body temperature starts to regulate, you're like, oh, it's cold as fuck out here now. And I remember my company first sergeant walked around with the shortest shorts I've ever seen in my life, and a sweaty t-shirt just like the rest of us, nothing on his head. We're all wearing like fucking beanies and all this shit, and he's just walking around half naked, and he's yelling at us, you have to teach your body, you have to teach your body to ignore the cold. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. And I was like 23 at the time. Still didn't make any sense to me. And then as I got older and learned more about, just resilience, more time in the military, being in shitty situations, I'm like, oh, okay, I get this. It's like, this is, there's pain, so I'm going to find something else to do, right? And ignore that pain. And that shit works. Like, it really does work.
Well, and if you just kind of lean into it, like, don't be like when you feel, so for example, we used to, we weren't allowed to wear sleeves. in college. You know, we weren't allowed to wear sleeves. I didn't care how.
In Cincinnati, by the way, which is not the warmest place in the wintertime.
Yeah, it's cold as shit. You're playing up at Pitt in West Virginia all the time. Like, it's fucking cold in the, in the fall and the winter. You know, and I remember we were playing Pitt, and it was like a foot of snow, and it was cold as shit. And he was like, if I catch anybody in fucking sleeves, because he like had just like fucking slammed a player up. Butch Jones, he had like slammed a player up into the locker, was like, "We're being a fucking pussy. Take your fucking sleeves off before the game." And you could see people like taking their shit off, trying to get their pads off. But I had been taught in high school not to wear sleeves because it makes you look weak. Because somebody sees you wearing sleeves across from you, they're going to be like, "Oh, that guy's a pussy."
You can hear this from boxers and MMA guys too. Like if they feel like and Chuck, you had him on the show recently, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do Chuck's show, or is it both?
I did. We did both, yeah.
Okay. So Chuck talks about this all the time. And I can't remember which example he gave, but there was one concrete example where he saw the other guy in the corner fucking like huffing and puffing with his head down in his corner. He was like, I knew I beat that guy as soon as I saw that. It didn't matter what else was going to happen for the rest of the fight. He had no chance to beat me. So there's definitely something to that.
Well, there's the body language. When you're tired, like that's how I train. I still do it now. Like I won't sit down during a workout, right? I won't bend over when I get tired. Because that shit it shows weakness and gives the other guy. If I'm tired, I could be tired as fuck on a field. I'd get so gassed and be like fucking huffing, you know? But I'm just taking big, deep belly breaths. And I'm just walking around and I'm watching the offensive lineman. As soon as I see that fucker get in the huddle and like bend up, like, you know how it is. He didn't get down like fucking ready to go. He got down like fuck. Like, like he was tired. I knew that the next play I was going to whip his ass because he's fucking gassed. So and that just gave me a burst of energy, you know? Whereas, here's an example. Marshall Yonda, I don't know if you remember him, offensive guard for Baltimore. He's a pig from Iowa. And he was a tough motherfucker. He was an all-pro, tough son of a bitch. It was my rookie year. And we're in a playoff game that was -14. And I wasn't wearing sleeves, obviously, because I just don't believe in that shit. I think you should, unless you're like, even if you're a receiver, I don't think you should wear anything that's going to like affect the ball, any of that stuff. Yeah. And then if you're up front wearing sleeves, you just are soft. I think you're soft. That's just the way I look at it. But he was out there in -14 during a TV timeout, standing there staring at me. And I was a rookie, and he was spraying water on himself. And I was like, all right, fuck it. So I grabbed water, sprayed it on myself. So then we just were like two icicles running into each other out there. And, he showed me a lot of respect after the game. He was like, I respect you, man. Like, you grinded it out. And, you didn't take plays off. You didn't come out of the game. You played the whole fucking game. And,
yeah. Well, that's something I talk about this a lot, actually. This idea, like we if anybody that's studied American history or Western history or anything like that, or just the history of warfare, they know what the phrase mutually assured destruction MAD, it means that we have nukes and you have nukes, and we know that if we shoot ours that you shoot yours, and we're all fucked, right? Mutually assured destruction. It's a pact. We know that nobody's going to fucking pull some bullshit because of that. But mutually assured destruction predates nuclear weapons by thousands of years, as long as human beings have been rivals against each other. Like we're from rival Viking tribes, right? Maybe we hate each other, but I know that if you fuck around with my family, or rather that if you fuck around my family, I'm going to kill everybody. And I know the same about you, right? So we don't fuck with each other's families. Like the cost is too high. It's like that's consequence. Yeah, there's consequences. That's where real mutual respect between men comes from. It's about capability. You know what I mean? Capability and intent. Like I don't give a fuck what's going on in your life or what kind of anger trip you're on right now, but there's a limit. Chuck calls it fighting offenses. Like no matter if I like you or don't like you, if I don't even know you, no matter what the scenario is, if you commit a fighting offense, we got to fight. That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how it was on the football field. It was like that in practice. I might be practicing against a guy who's like my fucking buddy. We're gambling in the locker room. We're fucking always hanging out. But if he keeps putting his fucking hands in my throat, especially in practice, you keep hitting me in the throat, dude, we're going to fight. And, you know, it happens. And then your buddies afterwards. You know, some of my best friends are guys that we got in fights with. We fought each other first because you got two alphas who fucking meet head to head. And, you know, neither one of us are going to give. So we just have to fight and then we become friends. And that's how it goes. And it's been like that forever. I mean, that's how you earn somebody's respect is you battle them. You go to battle with them and you fight them hand-to-hand combat. You know, and somebody's going to win and somebody loses. And then there's respect. And that's how it goes. It's like that in the animal world. It's like that it's supposed to be like that with us. And do you think this gentle parenting is the reason why we're so fucking soft?
Yes.
The gentle parent.
So some lady just got arrested for letting her kid walk home from school or something like that. I don't know if you saw that story or not. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? I walked. By the way, the stats on danger for children, generally speaking, are much lower now than they were when I grew up in the 1980s. Like there's no like the kids on the back of milk carton thing didn't start until I was fucking a teenager, I think. Right? It's like I walked like 2.5 miles to go to first grade.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't that big a deal. Like,
dude, I used to leave the house when I was 5, when I was in kindergarten. I remember as soon as kindergarten started, that's like my earliest memories is being like, hey, as soon as the fucking sun came up, I was getting my ass ripped out of the bed and you're getting your ass outside. And I was outside till the fucking street lights came on. Mm. That's how it was. You're just running around the neighborhood. Like you're just playing football with neighborhood kids and just hanging out. And kids don't do that shit anymore. They just don't. They're just not out doing anything together anymore. They're not out playing. They're not out. And that's what, I mean, fuck, that's where I got my first fights. I got my beat by older kids, you know, just being a dumbass. That's where you learn how to like respect your elders because like the older kids in the neighborhood, you know, they'll kick your ass if you act like an asshole. You know, that's the way it goes. And like a little healthy bullying, you know, there's a little bit of healthy bullying needs to go on. Like we keep each other in check. Like, hey, if you fucking think that you're a raccoon, like we're gonna make fun of you. So, yeah. If
you're meowing in class, you're getting your ass kicked. That's just the way it is. We're not doing that bullshit here.
We're not doing that bullshit. Like it's not gonna. Yeah.
I remember walking home from school one day. I think it would have been first or second grade because I was with my brother, and it would have been first grade because he would have been in fourth then. So I'm walking home, and he and I make a detour into the woods to fucking, I don't remember what we were doing, like throwing rocks into a creek or some bullshit. What do kids do? What do little boys do? We try to find tree branches on the ground that look like guns and pretend to shoot each other. You know what I mean? It's fucking stupid. As a matter of fact, when I see one as an adult, I'm like, damn, that's a pretty good stick right there.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, we're walking home, and then we're fucking around in the woods, and these 3 older kids show up. And I think they were in my brother's grade. I think they were his peers. And they were talking shit, and I called them, you know, all sorts of names because I don't give a fuck. I'm a lunatic at that point, and that's not really changed, I guess. But they've tried to fight. They jumped my brother. 3 of these dudes jumped my brother, and there's this big kind of ravine, and they're backed up to it. So I just picked this big tree branch up off the ground. It was probably like 15 feet long. I don't remember. It seemed like that as a kid. It probably wasn't that big. You know what I mean? But I swung it at him and knocked them all down this hill, and then fucking walked over. I just like calmly walked over and threw the branch down at him from the hill, and then we all became friends after. You know what I mean? It's like this kid's a lunatic, but he can fucking. That's one of the things that I think is really important, especially like you said with respecting your elders, but also getting the respect from your elders, right? Like if you put somebody that's physically weaker in a position with stronger physically people, then they have to work harder to gain that respect. And I think that's a really useful thing for kids, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, how do you know how high you can jump until you have to jump high enough to save your own life? Now, that's an extreme situation, but you can never really reach your full potential without the stress that life naturally provides. And the more that we shield these kids from stress, the weaker and weaker generationally they become. And we're not doing anybody any favors.
But we have all these anxiety and depression issues for people that haven't gone through any real adversity. They're like, you haven't gone through any adversity, but you're going to fucking therapy twice a week? Like, you've had 0 real trauma in your life, and you're still going to therapy twice a week? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's catastrophizing.
You've been sheltered, and nothing has been really hard. So now that, like, you're an adult, and you're like, oh, fuck, like, paying taxes sucks. It's paying taxes sucks and going to work sucks and doing all this shit that I don't want to do sucks. It's because you grew up so in an easy, cozy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Your parents never fucking smacked you with a shoe or threw a fucking ashtray at you, and it shows.
And then people, it's important to have, like, we bitch and moan a lot about how it's hard to find good workers these days and blah, blah, blah. And it's not a false statement, but we have created the conditions that produce this. Like,
yeah,
are you a millennial or you're a millennial, right? What are you 34, 35?
34.
Yeah. So you're a millennial. I'm like right on the border of Gen X and millennial, but Boomer and Gen X, they created this problem by raising weak ass kids. That's just how it is. And again, we're not doing anybody any favors. And then you need buy-in from the working class into whatever you're trying to do to produce the best possible product. Now, 1 out of every 5 federal employees, of which there are 2 million, works actually in a federal office more than once a week. Right?
That's bullshit.
That's right.
That is fucking bullshit.
But that's the expectation.
Your ass up and go to work.
That's the expectation now. It's like, well, it's not fair. It's like, what do you mean fair? Like
life isn't fucking fair. No one said life is supposed to be fair. Nothing is ever fair.
Fairness shouldn't even come into your mind.
Equal opportunity, not equal outcome.
Yeah, fairness shouldn't even cross your mind, whether it's fair or not. Yeah. What did man in The Rock? He says, "Winner or losers whine about fair, while winners go home and fuck the prom queen." I think. That's right. Like, we should be building people who brush circumstance aside and achieve in spite of it, right? That's the fucking purpose of life. And I don't mean just as a human being. All life has to adapt to be stronger, right? That's just the way it is. And the fact of life is that the weight never gets lighter. You get stronger. That's the only way you can survive, is to get stronger. And we've taken these mechanisms out of human life to make things easier for some reason. I just, like, I guess here's a good question for you. So you're a parent. Somebody that was born in like 1850, a man's born in 1850, and 1870, he's a fucking, he's 20, he's graduated some kind of school of some sort maybe, or he's learned a trade from his parents, or he's a farmer from his parent, whatever it is, finds a wife, has some kids, and his life is organized around the idea of making his kid's life better than his was, right? Now, we replaced better with easier, and that was a mistake, right? Yep. Like, I want, when I have kids, I want to make their life better than mine, not easier, because that's not, how does that make anybody's life better? Look, if your day-to-day life is running away from cougars and mountain lions and dire wolves, then sure, I can make it easier than that, right? But I can't make anybody's life easier than what mine would have been had I not, like, joined the military and stuff like that. Obviously, I've done a lot of hard shit on purpose, you know what I mean? But my adult life after the military has been pretty dope. It would be impossible for me to make that life easier for my kids unless I just put them in an iron lung on opiates all the time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's stupid. So we have to reconfigure this. How do I make a better life for my kids? And the first thing you can do is teach them resilience, right? That's got to be the first thing, because no matter what happens in life, and we're seeing it now, we're living in the easiest period of all human history in the West, and people are more depressed and anxious than they've ever been. So that shit doesn't work. We have to reconfigure our expectations to make people resilient. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The group I'm most concerned about, I think a lot of us out here are addressing the young man problem right now, but the group that I'm particularly concerned about is young girls, because it is the fastest growing contingent of anxiousness and suicide attempts of all the groups. They used to be the most resilient against suicide. It's the fastest growing group of suicides now. It's like, that's unacceptable. You can't, like, if somebody's the best at something, and I guess it's weird to say that, but they were the best at being resilient against that, are now starting to fall downward. Like, that the system is fucked. And I don't know that anybody's talking about anxiousness or depression in young girls right now. I don't see anybody talking about that shit.
It's because you got to think, these girls, like, women are there. I always talk about your genetic code, like your DNA. You're coded to do something, certain thing. Right? Like I'm coded to go to war, like to go to battle, to provide, to struggle, to go through hard shit. Like, because that's when I'm happiest. That's how I know I'm coded that way. When I'm struggling and I'm going through some adversity, that's when I am happiest. When it's comfortable and everything's fine, that's when I'm like, oh fuck, I need some purpose. I need something. I need like a goal to be working towards right now. Like, I can't just be hanging out and chilling. Young women, a lot of women have been coded for tens of thousands of years to be homemakers, to have children, to basically hold the fort down while your husband goes out and kills the fucking animal, so you guys have the village has something to eat. Like, that's because I'm talking about like the last 100 years. You can't change a code in their DNA that quick. So you have all these young girls who are being told having kids is bad and being part of a family is bad. You want to have a career. You want to do this. You want to do that. So now they're like having this internal battle, and that's what's going on. They're having this internal battle because everybody's telling them that having kids is bad, and that Donald Trump's taking your right away to fucking do this and that. Like, it's just incredible to watch these young girls. I have a 17-year-old and a 5-year-old, both girls. So I have a 17-year-old who's very ambitious.
You have a woman and a child that's a female at this point.
Yeah, she's very ambitious, and she wants to, like, she's very goal-oriented and driven. And, she has a young sister. So she's like, I'm not ready for kids yet, but she's like, she knows that one day she does want that. You know what I mean? And that's what we've lost that. Women aren't good, smart women aren't having kids anymore. So you have dumb people breeding and creating dumb kids, and it just keeps getting dumber and dumber and fatter and more worthless. And it's just, that's what happens. So, like, the best of the best aren't breeding. You know what I mean? Like, look at Elon Musk. He's got like 16 kids. He's got a kid that he donated. Like, he donated his sperm. Like, those are the type of people that need to be having kids. And, young women also don't have good men they don't have good young men to be pursued by. Like, women are now the aggressors. Young women are now they're the ones like asking boys out on dates, because these little boys are fucking, they sit around, they have no interaction with anybody else. They have a phone with fucking endless amounts of porn on it, and they just sit around jerking off all day. And they have no idea how to talk to a woman. I try to tell them, like, dude, talking to a girl is the scariest fucking thing you could do when you're a teenage boy.
Public speaking is the number one fear of all people. Do you know that? Yeah. And the most obvious example, because most people aren't going to be in a situation to speak publicly ever in their lives, right? I mean, I'm talking about the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
But everybody is going to have to talk to unless you're like retarded or asexual or some shit, you're going to eventually have to put yourself on display for another person, even if it's in a private situation, right? That is the number one fear of most people, right? And this is before any of this new anxiousness and shit like that. So imagine what it's done to, just the courting process or human pair bonding in general, to disrupt that already difficult process and then make it even more difficult, right? And put people in the wrong roles. Like, men are supposed to be leaders. We're biologically programmed to be leaders because we're stronger. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So when we're weak, women suffer. Like, you think being a male feminist is helping women? No, you're making them suffer.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking stupid, and it's obviously stupid.
Yeah, it's because it's all part of this whole, like, oh, women are equal and they can do anything a man can do. No, they can't. Like, that's why, I always relate back to, me and my wife's relationship. Like, my wife is good at a lot of shit that I suck at. And she does that. But you know what? She's also not like, if I need to go cut a tree down, she's not going to go out there and cut the fucking tree down. I'll go cut the tree down. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do the work. Like, if somebody breaks into our house, I don't expect her to grab a fucking pistol and go clear the house. Like, I'm going to do that. And men are the ones we're supposed to put our life in danger. I don't want to talk about scripture, but I've been like doing this Bible in a year thing because I just like to learn about it. But God took Adam's rib so that women could be walk beside us and under our protection, the protection of our arm. That's why he took it from the rib. That's why he didn't take it from the foot so that she's underneath of us. She took it so she walks beside us from our rib and under the protection of our arms. That's how women are supposed to be. We're supposed to be the protectors. Mm-hmm. And a good woman will lift a man to greater heights. You know, like, it takes a great woman will make you a greater man. You know, and that's why this whole feminist thing, where like, oh, women can do anything without a man. No, we're supposed to be working together. Mm. Like, we're supposed to be working together. Like, you have your role, I have my role. It doesn't make me better than you, and doesn't make you better than me. But we could be equals. But there's also, you have to understand that there's shit that I can do that you can't do, and there's shit that you can do that I can't do.
Yeah, like inside, like if you take gender out of it, inside of male-dominated things, and let's say fucking sports, for example, like there's no picket line to get more shorter people in the NBA. There's no picket line to have more offensive linemen play quarterback. Like, everybody kind of naturally just flows into what they're supposed to be doing, right? And Jordan Peterson talked about this a couple of years ago, and there's 3 main studies that came out of Northern Europe, particularly Scandinavia, where they are as egalitarian as you're going to get as a society. It's codified into their constitution that everybody has a right to do whatever the fuck they want, gender-wise, right? The military, fucking jobs, politics, all that stuff. And what happened was, here in America, I can't remember what the exact distribution is, but I think it's like 75% female nurses and 25% male, somewhere around there. In Scandinavia, it's like 96% female, because they chose to go do nurturing shit because that's what women fucking do, right? So absent any kind of government edict to do so, just saying you can't stop anybody from doing what they want to do. They don't have mismatched standards, which we do in our military now, and in our policing, and in our federal policing as well. What they have instead are people opting into things that they're biologically programmed to do, and their societies are better off for it. You know what I mean? It's like Carl Sagan used to say, for me, it's far better to accept the universe as it is rather than persist in delusion, regardless of how gratifying that delusion might be. Deluding yourself is fucking stupid. You're going to die, right? You may not personally experience physical death, but you murder your culture when you do this shit. And it's unacceptable. I don't know. I don't know when people started caring about fairness. You know what I mean? Like, if you were a Roman citizen in the 1st century, but a pleb, like you're a pleb Romans in the 1st century, you weren't whining about being able to join the Senate or anything like that. And look, I'm not saying we should go to a caste system or anything. I'm just saying the attitude back then was, whatever I am, I'm going to be fucking proud to be it, and I'm going to be the best version of it I can, right? Yeah. And that's what it takes. Now, from the other side of that, there has to be buy-in from what we might call the upper class. And again, I'm not advocating for any kind of caste system, but there are people who are more capable than others, certainly, right? Like, Elon Musk is more capable than most people on Earth. No, the vast majority of people can't do what he does. That's just a fact, right? For you physically, the vast majority of people on this earth can't do what you do. There are people like us with guns, and that most people will never be able to do what we can do with a gun, right? Just because there's some kind of crazy wolf hunting fucking gene from 1 million years ago or some shit that's buried deep in our brain that just makes us, like, the combination of tactile skill and pattern recognition is just better than other people. And it was made to protect the tribe, right? So you're just not going to be better than that guy at that. So let that guy do that, and go find what you're good at and do that. Find what you're good at and be the best at that you can fucking be. That's like the purpose of life, I think.
Absolutely. Well, have you purpose. If you just find your purpose, find something that you are good at doing. Like, that's all it takes. And now, but the problem is now, you know, everybody wants to be the fucking next Jake Paul, or the next Logan Paul, or the next fucking Mr. Beast. Like, that's what they're all doing. They're all trying to be the next YouTube star. And that's, so now people aren't being themselves. They're trying to create something that they think everybody else around them is going to like. So instead of being themselves and finding out what they're good at, they're trying to, like, morph into that, and they're unhappy as fuck for it. Because they live in this fake social media world. None of it's real. I do a lot of social media too, but I don't try to be somebody I'm not. just so that I could get a fucking couple more likes or a couple more follows. Like that's not, that doesn't give you any purpose. People are basing their entire existence off of how many people, how many impressions they're getting a month. Like they base their entire existence off of that. Can you imagine how miserable that would be?
I can't, because I just don't think that way. And maybe I'm lucky to, I think some of us, like people between my age and your age, are lucky to have grown up at the in the early part of the social media age, right? Where the first 10 or 15 years of your life, you didn't know or care about any of that bullshit. It was just like, I'm outside throwing rocks at my buddies or whatever, right?
It wasn't until college, until I got to college, that anybody cared about any of that shit. We had like AOL in high school. You know what I mean? Like we had AOL, people could chat in high school, and we had like a little bit of text messaging, but who the fuck could afford that? You know, it was, you know, very few people had it. You know, so it was like, you know, when you wanted to go see if somebody was around before you had a driver's license, you had to get in your fucking bike and ride your bike up, knock on their door and ask if they were home. And if they weren't, then you fucking went to the next house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had to remember people's phone numbers, and you had to, you know what I mean? You had to figure shit out on your own throughout the day. And now it's just so, it's so easy for everybody. But we are, like, I think we're seeing a switch with the kids in high school right now, like the kids that are just leaving high school and going into college right now. They don't want to be a part of that, like, fucking soft. They're so tired of hearing how soft they are. You know what I mean? Like, they're sick of hearing it. So they're like, we're going to fucking do something about it. So now they're like trying everything they can to like be more masculine and be more. So
you're saying that bullying works then? Okay.
Yes, it does work. It does fucking work. And I'm not saying that you should bully someone into fucking oblivion until they fucking want to kill themselves. But like, here's the other thing. If somebody was like, people always act like we had gay kids. I went to a very rural high school. We had kids that were gay in that high school. If we caught somebody picking on that guy, they got their fucking ass beat.
Yeah.
Because why are you fucking making fun of this? You think he chose to be that way? He's born like that, dude. Like, we're fucking get off his ass, you know? Or if they made fun of somebody with some kind of real disability. But no, if you are living in a delusion and you think that you need a litter box in your fucking classroom, or you want me to believe that you're a fucking girl, so you get to go into the locker room with the girls and play girl sports because you suck at men's sports. No, go fuck yourself.
I mean, I don't know when we started thinking, and it's the phrase for it is toxic empathy, but I don't know when we started believing that participating in other people's delusions was somehow good for them. Forget about the social gratification that you get from being on the right side of history or whatever gay shit that is. But how could it possibly be good for, especially for a developing mind, to hear them say something that's fucking crazy and the first, I guess, warning sign of a potential mental illness, and encourage them in that behavior? We don't do that in any other way, right? Except for with fatness, actually. It's those two things. It's gender and it's fatness, which are, one is a mental illness and the other one is like the most obscene version of a lack of discipline. You know what I mean? And they both have extreme consequences. If you entertain this bullshit with gender, and by the way, I wanted to be fucking Batman when I was 6 years old. My parents didn't kill themselves and throw me in a fucking cave. You know what I mean? Like, that's stupid.
I wanted to be Wolverine. I want to be fucking Wolverine.
Yeah,
how do I get claws coming out of my fucking fist?
It's just fucking nuts, man. So you're doing this at the worst possible time to these kids, and there's real world consequences. And the Trump administration is going to try to push a federal ban on any kind of gender hormone stuff for kids. And I think they'll get it, to be honest, because it's amongst the general population, about 70% of people are like, no, fuck that, we're not doing that stuff. So
kids you can't get a tattoo till you're 18.
Yeah.
How the fuck can you're gonna tell me I could chop my dick off and take hormones?
Yeah. Yeah. And we've gone from
and then they suppress all of the stories of the people that have done that, and they're fucking miserable now. Yeah. And they fucking regret. And they suppress all of those stories because this is all part of pharma. There's a lot of money behind this. It's all pharma. These are all drug companies that can fucking push those drugs and charge the shit out of people for them. You know, that's the other thing. You know, every little boy that can't fucking sit still in his classroom they toss him on Ritalin. They put him on Ritalin, and then he transferred from Ritalin to Adderall. Now he's a fucking meth head, for his whole life. He's stuck on that shit forever. And it's like I think Adderall is the biggest gateway drug there is.
Do you want to know something crazy? And so that stuff is bad. The gender stuff is horrible. I don't know how much Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance is charging or making a net revenue every year for obesity issues, right? For heart disease, for example, which is still the number one killer of human beings in America. More than cancer, more than anything, heart disease. And it's caused by inflammation, by being a fat fuck. That's what it's caused by most of the time. Yeah. Unless it's some kind of congenital thing. I don't know how much they're making off that, but I do know that Ozempic and Wegovy, which is the other weight loss drug that's going around from the same company, Novo Nordisk. Just Ozempic last year, their net revenue, which is to say profit, was $12 billion off that one drug. Off one drug, $12 billion, right? 40% of Americans are either diabetic or in pre-diabetes right now. And it's because of this same postmodern Michel Foucault bullshit that it's wrong to tell somebody they're hurting themselves. It's wrong to tell somebody they're hurting themselves. That is that is the dumbest shit I have ever heard. And it comes in conjunction with this idea that somehow you're co-parenting your children with the state. I don't fucking think so, buddy.
No thanks. I don't want I don't want them anywhere near my fucking kids.
Yeah, look at the DMV. You want those people in charge of your kids? Sorry. Yeah. You guys couldn't make the website. I don't know if you remember this. I think you were just graduating when the first one came out in 2012, right? Didn't you graduate in 2012?
That's what, yeah.
Or you got drafted in 2012?
That's when I got out of college.
Yeah. When the Affordable Care Act website came out, it crashed in like 2 minutes. Everyone's like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
You can't build a fucking website. It's like, I don't want you in charge of my kids.
They're incompetent. They're fucking incompetent. The entire federal government is incompetent. All of them.
Boy.
And it's all at the top. And it's because in this country, you fail, in our government, you can fail upwards somehow. Mm-hmm. That goes against it goes against the natural selection process, which is like how nature is supposed to work, and how if it works in nature, then it should work in business and it should work in government. The best and strongest should go to the next level. Or the best and strongest survives, right? And I'm not saying we shouldn't take care of the weak and whatever, and I'm not saying we should just, every kid that comes out that, can't fucking walk straight, we just fucking toss them in a ditch. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, just because of the color of your skin or your gender, that doesn't mean that you get to fail upwards. Mm. That is the definition of racism.
Yeah. I mean, you're not helping anybody by doing that. If weak people are in charge, then the other weak people that need help aren't going to get it. You know what I mean?
Look what happened.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. And if you're on that same thread, if you're a father of daughters, you can't afford to be weak. And here's why. Everything that girl learns about how a man is supposed to treat a woman, she learns from how her dad treats her mom. Everything, right? And when she goes out into the world at some point looking for a fucking man to take care of her, protect her, be the father of her children and all this stuff, she's going to go for some kind of archetype that resembles her dad. That's just the way we're programmed to operate, right? And if you're a fucking male feminist, she's going to go find some limp dick retard who's never going to be able to protect. Is that the kind of fucking man you want your daughter marrying? No, stop participating in this stupid bullshit and be a fucking man. It's like this is the easiest thing you'll ever do in your life, is just commit to being a man, right? It's really that simple. And it is peace through strength. That's what it is. You make yourself strong, you make yourself smart, and you gain wisdom by exposing yourself to different things. And you use all that stuff to fucking protect people. That's what being a man is. You know what I mean?
And it's a simple recipe. Like the recipe is simple. You see it all the time. We'll use Mark Zuckerberg as an example. He's a fucking nerdy, curly-headed fuck. And then
starts taking testosterone and doing jujitsu.
Starts taking testosterone, doing jujitsu, working out, hanging out with fucking cool dudes. And he's like, you know what, man? Fuck, this is awesome. Look at Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, fucking nerdy Amazon guy. he starts fucking eating red meat, banging Tony Gonzalez's ex-wife, fucking, taking testosterone and working out and gets his testosterone levels up. What do you know? It's, our food, the food that we're eating is fucking killing us. First of all, it's killing our hormones. It's making us weak. And it's because, and then you have a whole other side that's like a whole part of their plan. That's why they're trying to do all these hunting bans. They don't want us to be able to hunt and kill and eat the food that we want to eat. They want to control the food, and it's all part of their socialist, communist bullshit, one world government idea that they have, that they think is just going to be this utopian, everybody's the same. That has never fucking worked, and it never will work, because you take away competition and everybody's just a machine, is just a part of the machine. Now I'm just a tool. I'm not even being you. I have no purpose. I just fucking okay. The doctor makes as much as the fucking plumber. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Why would you even want to make everybody the same?
I don't understand.
How could that possibly be a benefit to anybody?
It's the idea of fairness, because they want everybody to have, everybody's the same. No, not everybody is not the same. We are not. You and I, we're not the fucking same. If we line up and do a fucking board drill right now, I'm going to drive your dick into the dirt. But if we go into a fucking house and we have a gunfight, you're going to shoot me in the fucking head. Like, I'm going to die. Like, I don't have a fucking chance. So it's that's what I'm saying. You're good at something. I'm good at something. We stay in our fucking lanes and we excel at those.
Yeah.
And that's how it's supposed to be. It's not everybody's fucking fair.
By the way, it's called biodiversity, right? So,
yeah.
And you know this as a hunter as well. There's a lot of, luckily, you guys, I don't know if it's luck or what the fuck happened in Colorado this November, but even the leftist rag newspapers were like, all right, we can't, this whole thing of introducing predator animals and then restricting hunting them. It's like, what is this goddamn thunder doing? What are we doing here? We're trying to fucking send bears down into the fucking cities? What are we doing?
Yeah, well, they're trying to so we got the mountain lion hunting ban stopped. We stopped that. That was they had millions of dollars behind it. I mean, they had people on the streets, they had people in the malls, and we had guys like me, Cam Haynes, a guy named Dan Gates who was here, Meat Eater guys. Everybody that's like big in the industry really fucking took a stance on this and was like, this is a terrible idea, because Dan, they've introduced wolves. Okay, it's been a fucking disaster. It's already on a state like Colorado that's already fucked, completely fucked. Jared Polis has fucked this state. He's a coward, scumbag piece of shit, and I hate him. I think he's the worst fucking thing that ever happened in the state, because all he cares about is making this a sanctuary state, allowing any fucking buddy to come in here. It's not safe anymore. You have Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes, and he's saying, oh, that's not even really happening. That's a figment of their imagination, when they have video evidence of it. And he still will feed you a shit sandwich and expect you to like it. And then he's going to him and his husband, by the way, is an animal rights extremist. So he believes that he wants to get rid of the fur trade, the beef trade, all of that. He wants butcher shops shut down. They introduce these wolves, and they have zero management plan for the wolves. So they start fucking up cattle, right? So what do? Taxpayer dollars are going to pay ranchers to learn conflict management with wolves.
What?
Conflict.
What, like this shit, like Crocodile Dundee? Get the fuck out of here. It's a goddamn wild animal, man.
It's a fucking wolf. You shoot the wolf if he's out there doing his thing, whatever. He comes near my fucking cattle and starts killing calves, he gets fucking killed. Because wolves, if you know anything about wolves, they kill for fun. Mm-hmm. That's what they like.
Well, for sport, right? I mean, it's a demonstration of prowess in the pack to just kill and leave the animal there and fuck off, and then buzzards will come eat it. That's really common.
Exactly.
But this shows, like, people that are so far removed from things shouldn't be making decisions about it. And
why should anybody that lives in fucking Boulder or that lives in downtown Denver be voting on something that's going to affect the rancher who fucking busts his ass fucking 10 to 12 hours a day every fucking day and doesn't get a break and doesn't get a vacation and doesn't get to fucking Zoom into work. He doesn't get the Zoom call to go to work. Like, this motherfucker is grinding every day just to keep food on the table and just to keep the lights on and keep his tax and pay his taxes. Meanwhile, you're voting to keep wolves and make his life even harder. And then if he shoots one of those wolves, he goes to fucking federal prison.
Yeah, it's insane. Luckily, though, there's I think the tide in a lot of ways the Overton window is shifting back to the right, and one of those ways is with meat, especially like red meat. There's this company, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're called Valor Provisions. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's they're up in Montana, but it's a co-op of ranchers from all over the country. Most of them, I think most, if not all of them, have some connection to the U.S. military. They're veterans who are farmers, and they're doing a bunch of things. One, they're making a co-op where you can buy meat online, have it shipped direct to your house from local ranchers, right? And their goal is to have it just a honeycomb pattern all over the country, right? Where you can within one day get beef right to your house, beef, lamb, stuff like that, and heritage pork as well. I think Casey Cattle Companies and as part of that. There's a bunch of companies that are taking part of it. Tim Sheehy's company with Greg Putnam, Little Belt Cattle Company is involved as well up in Montana. But there's a bunch. That part I think is starting to turn the corner. People want fresh. They want fresh meat, right? And part of it is just in educating people what the difference is. You go to a grocery store and you see some steaks wrapped in cellophane, and they have super bright white fat. It's like, nah, that's not real. That was corn syrup. That they fed that cow corn syrup to get it fat, right, at the end of its life, and it's like you're eating diabetes. I don't want that. I think that part of it is a good foot in the door to start having real conversations about our food supply, but also about game management and all this other stuff, right? Because people are finally paying attention to it, so you can start making that argument a little bit like, hey, this is, and the point of all this is, the further separated from the act you become, the dumber you get. Like people that don't understand our history, for example, are in charge of deciding our future. When Kamala Harris was talking about price controls a couple of months ago, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Are you out of your mind? Like, this goes back to the 4th century AD with Diocletian. He almost bankrupted the Roman government by trying to pull this bullshit, created fucking hyperinflation. And then in Venezuela, hyperinflation, just fucking like 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
They were the 3rd richest country in the world.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck, man? But that's a big problem. It's like, people that don't understand things are in charge of them. That's oh my God, it drives me nuts.
It's supply and demand. All right. If the supply is low, the demand is high. Okay, so that means the price is going to be higher. That's just that is like basic economics, and that's like day one economics. And I'm not even. I mean, I'm just becoming financially literate. You know what I mean? And I know that. So the fact that we have somebody running for president that has no fucking idea.
Yeah, it's wild. Luckily we dodged that bullet. Now, we got to get out of here in a minute. I got to go do another show, but you're doing a show, Wolf Untamed. What's that show about? What are you trying to accomplish there?
It's just like a lifestyle. I would like to, it's comparative to like what a Joe Rogan would do, where you just have fucking interesting people come on. It's just not a fucking 4-hour marathon. It's an hour and a half, 45 to 90-minute conversation with somebody, and learning about their life and what they've been through. Interesting people that have been through some shit. Like the last episode I just did was with Mike Glover. And I've been friends with Mike for a few years, and, just learning about some of the shit that he's had to go through. And, it's fucking terrible, and then, had Peyton Manning on, this guy, it's everywhere from operators to fucking football players to, people in the medical field. Like it's all over the place. So it's not just like a sports show or an outdoor show. I have, some of the best outdoorsmen on there too. Corey Jacobson, who's like the GOAT elk hunter. He's got a 90% success rate in elk hunting, which is bow hunting elk.
That's flip flop from the average is 10%.
It's 10% chance. So that means every stock that you put 10 stocks on, you'll maybe kill one. And you and that's the thing about September, you might get one chance to stalk an animal. So this guy is fucking killing. He understands how to talk like an elk and how to speak like an elk. And it's cool to get that perspective from a guy like that, And then I also have a YouTube channel where I go and I film all my hunts. And it's not like a normal hunting show. It's like all fucking quiet and sneaking around. Like it's real and it's raw. And sometimes we don't kill anything because I'm not just going to the best fucking place you can hunt in the country where it's a guaranteed kill. I'm going to places where you have to actually work because I think that's relatable to people. And that's something I always took pride in, was being relatable to people. Even as an athlete and everything, I never wanted somebody to meet me and be like, man, that guy kind of sucked, you know? Like I always wanted to feel like, you know, you're talking to one of the guys and, you know, I'm just a fucking dude that, you know, happened to play football and I like to hunt and I like to talk and I like to hang out with cool people. Actually, December 12th, I'll be down in Texas at the Demolition Ranch.
Oh, I'm going to be gone for that, actually. How long are you staying?
I'm going to stay there I'm just going to be there for the 12th. And then on the 13th, 14th, I might have to come back because I think Charlie Kirk's going to come on the show. So I might be able to because he's going to be here talking to, you ever heard of the Ladies of Liberty?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
So it's like a big group of conservative women here in Denver. My wife's a part of it. So he's coming to speak to the Ladies of Liberty. And while he's here, I think we've got him. I think I convinced him to come jump on the show. So
nice.
If I have to, I'm going to come back, but then I'm going back down to a ranch in Uvalde to hunt some axis deer, some whitetail, and shit like that.
When's that? I would.
That's like the 14th and 15th. I think Cash Patel's going to come with me.
Oh, that's dope. Shit, I'd like to jump on that one.
Yeah, so I'll get you in on the group.
Yeah, let me know.
I'll do a group with you and the guy. You ever heard of the Heritage Group?
Yeah. Is it the Sitka guys? Is it their ranch?
No, it's not their ranch. No, it's what's the guy's name? I can't remember the guy's name.
Did you get hooked up with these guys through Baker? Because there's a lease out there in Uvalde he goes to a lot too.
No, I got hooked up with this. This isn't even they don't even let people hunt there. Really, it's like a thing they do for their family for fun.
Oh, sweet.
And they just grow deer out there. They don't even sell them or anything. It's a 7,500 acre high fence. You know what I mean? But after my September, I need to go just kill some shit. So
yeah, fair enough.
And they need stuff. They're going to manage and kill those things anyways.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go. But like, I just want people to know that, like, you know, whenever we talk about that mountain lion hunting ban, those quotas, if they don't get met by hunters, regardless if they ban it or not, they're going to hire a fucking government houndsman who's going to cut. They do it in California. They're going to do it here. They'll hire a government houndsman to come kill it, and it just and they leave it lie.
Yeah.
They can't take it. They kill it and leave it lie. At least now you're getting hunters that come here. They're putting money into the CPW, that pays for all of the hiking trails. That pays for all of the forest management, all of the forestry services.
Yeah.
And then, so that's a couple $100 there, then each person. And then you kill one. Now you got to take it to a processor. That meat processor is now making money off of that. And then you take it to a taxidermist, and the taxidermist is making money. So you're stimulating the economy rather than just some guy that's taking taxpayer dollars to go out there and just fucking kill them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Washington State's done that for 30 years with nutria and other small rodents up there. They'll just have dudes riding around in the back of a pickup truck with suppressed 22s popping these animals. It's like, all right, man. You know, you don't like. I don't know why the government is doing this. Why is the government doing this?
Yeah, why don't they let hunters, let people that want to go, that people that love that life, let trappers do it. Let people go out and people like doing that shit. And you can charge them to do it, and they'll pay for it. And that stimulates the economy, and and that's the other thing with hunting. People don't realize how much hunting is not cheap. To go on an elk hunt, you know, say you're an out of state or you come to Colorado elk hunt. Now you spent almost $1,000 just on the tag, right? On an over-the-counter tag that you have a 3% chance of killing something with. 3% chance. You spent $1,000, and then you got to fly out here, or probably going to drive. So you got all the fuel, and then you got to pay for a place to stay, or you're sleeping outside, and then you got to pay for the taxidermist, the meat shipping. All of that stuff costs money. I mean, you're spending. Like you kill an elk, you're in it for like minimum $2,000.
Yeah, for sure. Just for the processing and shipping and shit like that.
Just at minimum.
Yeah.
So you know it's expensive and it's I love doing it, and a lot of people love doing it, and the fact that they're trying to take those away from us, and that's why. So my wife and we are going to start an initiative to try to get a bill passed in Colorado here that it's a constitutional right. So hunting and fishing is going to be a constitutional right. And it just passed down in Florida. So I'm hoping we're going to talk to those people on how they worded the bill and how it all went. We're going to get it done here.
Hell yeah. Well, keep me posted on that. We'll help push that one too. I like that idea.
And I'll let you know about the hunt we'll get you down there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. Well, before we go, tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. So it's Derek Wolfe _95. Find me on X. I talk a lot of shit on X. Derek _Wolfe 95. And then you can find me on YouTube. It's the Wolf Untamed channel. And then all of Spotify, Apple, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can check the podcast out.
Sweet. All right, cool, buddy. Well, thanks for coming. Good to see you twice in 2 days.
Yeah. Hope I see you next month, man.
Yeah, we'll do it. And thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.